it's MJ. How are you? So today I want to talk about how our judgments get us lost in the illusion. So when we're in judgment, we'll find ourselves, getting confused, and we'll find ourselves kind of like chasing and never feeling good enough and always feeling like we're having to please everybody else. And so that means we're kind of in judgment. We're in low self-esteem. We're in just a pretty low vibrational place because we're not in our center. Now, the only way to really do this vibrational work is to get in touch with your emotions and to trust in yourself. So you can't really manifest your desired outcome if you're not feeling your emotions, if you're not feeling into your heart space and getting to know that relationship, getting to know that connection. Ultimately, in our human beings form, we're coming out of the dark ages, you could say, right? We're coming out of this veiled illusion of separation. So we're rising into love and unity. Along the way, though, we can get lost. So when we have, especially under the conditions of the denial of the emotional body, that we don't want to have to own our creatorship, that we don't want to have to look at the problems of the world. We want to just stay in our comfortable little lives and think that the problems of the world out there have nothing to do with me, but meanwhile we'll talk and moan and complain and judge other people, right? And so we can see that. Now, the point of this came from this idea of how, isn't it interesting when you look at a judgment? Because a judgment essentially is like a mask. It laces and judgment is, I'm always talking about negative judgments, obviously, like they did this, or especially judgments where we claim to know the character of somebody else, right? Remember that whenever we're talking about someone, we're actually talking about an aspect of self. So when we're claiming to know the character of somebody else in a negative way, it's more likely a reflection of something we feel about ourselves, something in ourselves that we're not looking at, right? So we might think, oh, that person's really unstable, but actually we in ourselves feel unstable in life. And so we put that kind of negative judgment on someone else so we don't have to look at it in ourselves. And the judgment paradox is that in the present moment, our judgment can often make us feel better. Our judgment, because we're in pain and it's so intense and powerful to own our own pain and transform it and choose to see through the light of love, but that experience can be so traumatic and painful that we run back to comfort. We run back to our nest, you could say. We run back to what is familiar, our family, our group of friends, to protect ourselves from the pain that we feel. Ultimately, putting a lid on our power as individuals as well. But here again, in the trauma and in the pain, if we don't know how to process it, we run back and then we hook back into judgment. So we end up buying into what other people's judgments are to mask that pain so we don't have to feel it, which makes our ego feel superior. And then our ego basically makes choices that can just kind of cut out that aspect of self. But usually what happens through divine intervention is that those aspects keep hitting up against us. So it's not like things get better. We might, create more situations which will keep shining back to us where we're being disempowered, where we're not owning our truth, where we're not being fair to people, where we're not being honest with people, All of those aspects will continue to come up for us until we own and transform them. So yeah, this thing of judgment, it's a very curious thing because on the surface we judge and we put someone down, which makes us feel superior. Yeah, we're better than that person. That person is this, that, and the other. So we can do whatever we like, right? Now, the illusion of that is that superiority is actually a mask for a very deep wound of unworthiness and a very deep wound of separation and fear and various aspects of trauma in human condition. And being in denial of that, especially in a country like the UK where the stiff upper lip and the British ruling class mentality, conquer and rule, control and conquer, that is a very profound thread of energy in this country and a lot of modern Western civilizations, right? Rule and conquer, be powerful. And all of that energy comes from the root of separation and under a veil, right? So we must peel back those veils and rise as individual aspects of consciousness, but with integrity of the whole. So we know that part of the whole. And I gotta say, you guys, here's the juice. This stuff might seem really tiny to you, you know, like, oh no, well, we're just different. We just have a different perspective. But recognize that if you're really gonna dig deep and be honest about what thoughts you're thinking and what conversations you're having with people, if you're sitting around talking about the rightness and the wrongness of other people, that's a waste of your fucking time. You know, you really want to just be focusing on your creative spark, shining that, sharing that, and follow your feel-good flow. You know, don't let yourself get caught up in other people's judgments, because other people don't necessarily want you to be free. Other people don't necessarily want you to really shine your light, because you shining your light will force other people to look at themselves. And certainly people close to us. And be really mindful of control. Be really mindful of the people in your life who tell other people what to do. Whether it's your parents, whether it's your friends, whether it's your siblings. If you're around people who are telling, oh, you should do this and you should do that and da-da-da, unless their life is fucking perfect, unless they got loads of money in the bank and they're in a super harmonious relationship and they just have harmonious relationships everywhere around them, unless the person you're taking advice from is actually living the way you want to live, I'd be very mindful of taking advice from people, including myself. However, I'm at a point in my life where I've actually created a life that I love. You know, it's not perfect. I have lots of work to do and more abundance to create and more love to create and more awesome, happy relationships to pioneer, you know, but right now I'm having to let go of situations that don't serve my highest good because people are in judgment. Because people claim to know me, and this is straight up people who have maybe had a handful of conversations with me 5 years ago, you know, and to this day are carrying judgment like I'm something, I'm not sure. But our judgments give us an excuse to basically act like dickheads. And that is like, I'm starting to wrap that around as I own my power. It's like, wow, I've spent a lot of my life trying to please people who don't like me and trying to please, and they don't even necessarily have a reason not to like me other than the fact that there's some superficial, I don't know. There's an underlying fear because I'm a foreigner, or an underlying fear because I talk different, or an underlying fear because I look a certain way, you know? And so people, like, I don't want that energy around. And I'm feeling that edge, and I'm looking at people saying nice things, but then behind one's back, like doing another, and then pretending like they didn't. And the amount of confusion energy that I'm so ready to let go of is like awesome. It's just fucking awesome, you guys. Like, feeling liberated to the point that other people's perceptions of me don't matter is beautiful. And also the fact that, like, people can, like, wrapping my head around all of these aspects about how that's when it hurts, right? When people judge and then slam the judgment, and you're like, oh, brutal. And accepting it is from pain and it is from deep unworthiness. At the same time, the more loving we become for ourselves, the less we're going to tolerate people who don't own their shit. Because what happens when somebody's not owning their shit, they project their shit onto you and it hurts. It's like getting stabbed in the heart over and over again, you know? It's like you feel like you're being put on trial over and over again because living up to people's judgments is like a thing of the past, right? That's like old paradigm. You know, trying to control one another, old paradigm. Trying to tell each other how to live and how to be, old paradigm. You know, making it about the money, fuck that, old paradigm. You know, we're here rising for humanity to move into a new world. The way we perceive ourselves in this reality, in with one another, is very important. And our ability to heal has everything to do with letting go of people who don't want to heal. Of letting go of people who just want to hold on to their judgments and make it everybody else's fault for why they're in the situation they're in, right? So that energy, I can feel the edge of it. It hurts like fucking hell, but you gotta let it go. We gotta let go of our past, right? We gotta let go of the old stories. And that's something as well. I can own my whole fucking life up to this point and say, yeah, I'm so ready to let go of all that victimhood and all that family issues and people not loving each other and people not caring about each other and people just cutting each other out and judgment and back talk and gossip. You know, I'm so fucking over all of that. The beauty is that I get to just show up in a way that I love. And that is this new path. This is like fully stepping in and into this expressive channel, fully stepping into speaking from my heart, from sharing from my heart, and manifesting a life I truly love, and manifesting a life of abundance. And the more you sit with the shit that you want to let go of, the more the life that you want really starts to open up. So it's all really beautiful. Be mindful of the judgment paradox. Be mindful that on a certain level, when you're gossiping about people, it might make you feel better because it makes it easier, because that means you don't have to deal with your own pain. But if you don't deal with your own pain, you just end up in small, petty, kind of like mediocre life. You know, deal with your pain and you rise. You rise into the full potential of who you're here to be. Thanks for listening, you guys. I hope you have an awesome day. Peace out, yeah, motherfucker.